Welcome to part 4 of the Excel DSS project. Today we are going to look at our residual outputs. And if you do not see residual outputs at the bottom of your screen, that's because you failed to check that box during the regression calculation. So if you don't see it, you need to go back a few steps, and when you run the regression, make sure the box for residual output is checked. What the residual output shows us is the predicted closing price of our stock if we just ran it against the algorithm that the regression kind of spits out. So this whole column here, the B column here at the bottom, is the predicted closing price of your company, and whereas if you go to the first page, this is the actual closing price of the company. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare the actual versus the predicted price, and then we're going to determine what action is best. Should we buy, sell, or hold that stock, depending on the difference between the actual price and the predicted price. So what I want you to do in cell E34, and please do your best to follow along with me when it comes to the exact cells, because if you copy and paste something into a different cell, when we work on the calculations later on, it's going to get all mixed up and jumbled. So I'll do my best to tell you exactly what cells I'm working on, and you do your best to follow along. So in cell E34, I want you to type actual price. In cell F34, I want you to type predicted price. And in cell G34, I want you to type action. Okay, so the actual price of the stock can be found on the first spreadsheet. Click on cell B2, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the sheet, hold the Shift key, click on the last cell, right-click, copy, and then come back to this page, and in cell E35 you want to paste. So that has just pasted all of the actual prices. You want to do the same with the predicted price, and that's easy. Just go over to column B here, click on the first price, scroll all the way down, hold the Shift key, click on the last item, right-click, copy, and paste. All right, and before we go any further, click on the first two cells of column E and F of this list here, and then scroll all the way down. Hold the Shift key at the bottom so that all the values are highlighted. Right-click, format cells, and then you want to do a number that has 2 decimal places, so it looks like dollars and cents at least. All right, now our action. So if the actual price is less than the predicted price, what should you do? So let's say you're a stockbroker and you're looking through your reports, and the actual price of the stock is $360.27, but according to your calculations, it should really be $361.43. What will you do? Or what should you do? And the answer is you should buy. So if the actual price is less than the predicted price, you want to buy. And then the opposite is true. If the actual price is higher than the predicted price, you would want to sell, because according to your calculations, the stock that you had is overvalued and eventually will fall down in price. So we want to apply that logic into an action field. And to do so, we're going to use an if-then statement. Okay, so in cell G35, you're going to type the equal sign, and then type the word if, parentheses, if cell E35, you can just click on it and it'll fill in for you automatically. If E35, the actual price, is greater than the predicted price, what do you want to do? Well, we want to sell if that's the case. So comma, quotes, S-E-L-L, end quotes. And if that doesn't work, comma, we want to put another statement in. This is called a nested if, so we're putting an if statement inside of an if statement. If, parentheses, and you can actually type it out if you know the cells, E35 is less than F35, comma, we want to quote by, end quote, and if all else fails, you can do it really easily. You don't have to do an equal sign. You can just do comma, quote, hold. Okay? Double up the parentheses at the end, and that is your statement. I will zoom in just a little bit, give you a second to look at it. Okay? And that's basically what you need. If E35 is greater than F35, comma, quote, cell, end quotes, comma, with a nested if statement, E35 is less than F35, comma, quotes, by, quotes, comma, quotes, hold, end quotes, double up on the parentheses. People usually screw up by writing in the same sign here, so they'll do greater than and greater than, so make sure they're opposite, and then don't forget the commas and the quotes. All right. Now, I got an action to buy. You probably got an action to buy or sell. Very rarely will you get a chance to hold, but there is a small possibility. What I need you to do next is move your cursor. You see this little black square in the lower right-hand corner of cell G35? I want you to slowly move your cursor over it so that the white plus turns into a black plus. And then with that, I want you to click and then drag all the way down. And what you're doing here is you're copying that formula all the way down to the bottom of your observations here. And the system is smart enough to update the cells, so it knows that when it goes down to row 37, it's going to replace E36 with E37 and F36 with F37 and all the way down. You let go, and then you should see a combination of buys and sells in this column. All right. I like to straighten it out a little bit. Okay. Very rarely will you see a hold, but it is possible. If you see anything that says true or false, you've done something wrong. Okay. And again, if you click down, notice how up in this corner, where the formula is written, the numbers change as you go down. So in row 42, it's E42 is greater than F42, and then in row 47, E47 is greater than F47. Now, what we want to do is we want to count the number of buys and sells and holds, and we're going to do that in a summary table. So in cell H34, just type in the word summary table. And here on cell H35, type in the word buy equals, sell equal, and hold equal. So what we're going to do in this, in cells I35, I36, and I37, we're going to put a count if formula in that cell, or those cells, and they're going to count the number of buys, we're going to count the number of sells, and count the number of holds. All right, so in I35, click on the equal sign, type in the word count if. What I'll do is I will slide this over so you can see the formula a little better. All right, so count if, parentheses. Now we need to add the range. So the first item in the range is cell G35, and you scroll all the way down, hold the shift key, and click on the last cell. Okay? And then you want to hit comma, quotes. Let me see if I can scroll up so we can build this together. Come on. All right, so comma, quote, BUY, end quote, parentheses. So just take a look at that formula. Count if, parentheses, the top cell, the bottom cell, comma, quote, by, and if you hit enter, it'll count the number of buys. I have 445 buys. You will probably have a different number. What we want to do now is make note of the starting and ending cells. If you need to write that down on a sheet of paper, please do so. We should all have it start at G35, colon, and the closing one is G1042. That last number may be a little bit different depending on the year. It could be 1040, it could be 1047. It all depends, but G35 will be the start. So I'm just going to duplicate this formula equals count if, parentheses, the range of G35 to G142, comma, and in this one we want to count the number of cells, end quote. And I get that number. Some of you may want to copy and paste the formula down like we did with the action. If you do that, you will run into problems, and that is the cell numbers will change according to all the. So if you slide this down, notice how this changes. Look, you look at the formula changes. And you don't want that to occur. So please do not do that. I'm going to clear the contents. You can do it either way. I like to type it out because I have control over it, and I don't have to go back in and edit anything. Your other option is to copy and paste the first one, kind of slide it down, and then go back into the cell and hold formulas and change the range cells so that they're all the same. So you want all the cells in the range to be the same. Here we're going to type in hold, and that's that. So very, very small chance you will get a hold. I think I've only seen a couple people in 5 years ever get a hold at this stage. So I will highlight these formulas for you one more time. Notice how the range stays the same. Don't forget the quotes and don't forget the commas. Oops. Okay. And then I want you to click on Save. And we'll move on to the next part in Part 5.